Welcome to the Week 3 Go-To session. This is primarily going to be about research in APA style. I'll try to make it as painless as possible, but it's pretty important that we cover this stuff because research confuses people, not only in terms of what research is all about, but the particulars of APA style. And I'm going to try to make it as simple as possible because it's really not that difficult. But it can become difficult if you don't know how to either search for research or to follow the rules governing APA style. So I'm going to cover some of that stuff. But let's begin with some basics about what is research. Okay. First of all, keep this in mind. Keep this in mind not only because it's an important thing that I want to impress upon people, but it might become important later when it's time for quiz questions. So research is like joining a discussion or joining a conversation. Either of those two terms is fine. It's like joining a discussion or a conversation. By that I mean, picture that you're attending, I don't know, let's say a party. Not a wild, crazy, like keg party or something, a dinner party where reasonable adults are sitting around talking about all sorts of issues. It can range from technology or politics or what have you. Chances are you're not going to storm into a conversation that's ongoing without first just kind of sitting back, eavesdropping, bringing yourself up to speed in terms of what the conversation is about. And then when you feel like you're okay, you'll step in and contribute. Well, the same thing applies to when you're writing about things that require outside research. Some of you may think that you already know all there is to know about your topics, and some of you may know quite a bit, but probably you can use some help from others. So that means kind of joining in on the conversation that's already ongoing. Okay, so whatever your topic is, whether it's first-person shooter video games or hip-hop albums or some new piece of hardware, or I'm trying to think of the other majors we have here, or mobile apps or logos when it comes to graphic design. Whatever the topic, people have already been talking about this before you metaphorically came into the room. So your first job is to sort of hang back on the edges of the room and sort of eavesdrop on what's being discussed. And the eavesdropping equivalent here is doing research, right? A literal conversation isn't going around, but you're going to sort of stick your nose into the conversation that's been ongoing in the form of the written word. So that's the point of research, ideally. Now listen, I've been young once. I was a student once. I know that sometimes students see instructions and they see that there's research requirements, and the automatic assumption is, oh, research, that means I just have to go find some quote to stick in, or I need to go find a random fact and stick it in. That's not what research is, right? That's just running out there and doing the bare minimum to try to meet the assignment requirements. Research means going out and becoming more fully aware of your topic so that you can draw upon that when you're presenting your own ideas. So that's what research is really about, ideally. Okay, so there's that component. You're going to have to do research. By the way, this week, and I will get to the assignment later in the session, so don't freak out just yet. And Matthew said something about searching around and finding information. I'll also give some examples of that as well. But yeah, for this week's assignment, which is due Sunday night, is to actually produce a full draft of your essay. The essay in this class, again, is taking the form of a blog post. You won't be posting it to your blog yet. You'll do that at the very end, at the end of week 4. Right now, you're just drafting it. Okay, so it's going to be on Microsoft Word. It's going to follow APA style conventions, but it's going to include at least one piece of research found through the Full Sail Library databases. And I'm going to show where that is and what it looks like in just a second. Although you should have had this information covered in DGL. By the way, I'll also reveal that even though I'm officially a member of the English department, I also teach digital literacy, right? The course all of you had to take way back when you first arrived at the university, or when you first logged into the university. So I know that you guys get this stuff. Maybe not at the same level that we're going to do it in this class, but you should know where the library research database is and kind of how to use it. But if you need a refresher, I'm going to give one. Okay, so there's a research component. You'll need at least one source from the Full Sail Library database. A second source, by the way, or a third source, or a fourth source, can come from outside the databases. You should use the skills you learned in digital literacy in order to determine what sorts of sources are credible and which ones aren't. So citing Wikipedia is not a credible source. Citing someone's random post on a forum or discussion board is not a credible source. But if you find a newspaper article online, or if you find something that's posted to a website that really does have standing, like there are lots of video game forums out there like GameSpot or IGN, and there are equivalent sorts of websites out there for music and just about any field. You can draw upon those, but at least one needs to come from the Full Sail Library database. But in addition to doing the research, there's another component here, which is that the research you do when it gets put into your paper needs to follow APA style. And because this doesn't get taught in digital literacy, I will spend some time talking about that. APA style basically has, I think, roughly three kind of components to it. There are layout and format issues, which all of you pretty much have been doing so far, right? If you've been sort of imitating the sample papers that I put up with each writing assignment, you've already been doing the layout and format thing on your own. I haven't stressed the need for page numbers that much. If you know how to do it, you can go ahead and put page numbers in there. It's nothing more than just going up to the menu and clicking on insert page numbers. They should appear on every page. But the bigger deal is, paragraphing, right? That all the paragraphs are double spaced, that the font is appropriate, that we're indenting the first line of any new paragraph, that we have a centered title right before the first paragraph, that we have that full heading information in the top left corner. So that's layout format stuff. But there are also new elements that you're going to have to learn for this draft of your paper. One is in-text citations. So whenever you quote, or not even just quote, but anytime you cite information from research within your actual paper, it needs an official citation within parentheses. I'm going to show how to do that. And you also need an end of the paper references page. The references page and the in-text citations kind of go together. You see the in-text citation in the middle of the essay, for instance, and it gives you basic information. And then when you go to the end of the paper references page, you can find that same information in much greater detail. So let's begin with in-text citations. Basically, any quotation, fact, or information that comes from research must be cited. And there are basically two ways you can handle this, okay? The first is to mention the author's last name in a signal phrase. So here the signal phrase is according to Smith. Smith is the author's name. After the signal phrase, we immediately put the year of publication in parentheses. So according to Smith, 2008, comma, and then we insert our quotation. And then we finish things off with another set of parentheses that contains either the page or paragraph number. Another way to handle it is not to use a signal phrase, or not to use the author's name, and year at the beginning, but basically save all this information, author, year, page, or paragraph number, for the very end. You'll still need like a signal phrase of some sort, like here I just said a recent study states, comma, and then I insert my quotation, and then I save everything for the end. Author's last name, year, page or paragraph number. The reason I say page or paragraph number is that most of the time you'll be using a page number, but there are, for example, online materials that may not have a page number, so you just have to count the paragraphs to figure out what paragraph your information is coming from. And the same rule applies to when you're citing information that you're not necessarily quoting, but it still comes from outside sources. So here's, my made-up example. According to Smith, 2008, American students are underperforming in comparison to the world peers. Now, let's imagine that this is not a direct quote. Okay, it's entirely in your own words. It has no similarity to the original sentence that appeared in your research. That's another important thing too, is that plagiarism can include as few as 2 or 3 words strung together that you've lifted from someone else. So if you are paraphrasing, you just have to make sure that your paraphrase has no similarity to the original. But let's say I'm doing that here. Okay, this is a paraphrase entirely in my own words, but the information comes from research that I found. It doesn't matter. Whether you're quoting things directly or paraphrasing, you still have the same 2 options. Mentioning the author's last name and year at the beginning, and then just putting a page number or paragraph number at the very end, or saving everything for the very end. Author's last name, year, page or paragraph number. Okay, so it's that simple. And if you need to watch this session again, or if you need to take a quick screenshot right now so you have this information on hand always, I'll also show you where you can find this exact same information in your McGraw-Hill reading material. I mean, it's out there. So even if you forget the details, you can refresh your memory really, really easily. Because again, the actual rules aren't difficult, but it's following them that sometimes people forget about. Um, some other quick tips I have. These are sort of things not to do. These are sort of pitfalls that I see. First of all, do not photobomb your quotations, facts, or statistics. If you think about what photobombing is, right? I mean, that's kind of a popular term now. Photobombing is when anybody sort of accidentally, or even sometimes on purpose, interrupts what should have been a natural photo, right? Someone accidentally wanders into the frame, or someone just is being a clown and decides to interrupt your picture, right? That's photobombing. Well, quotations and facts and research can work the same way if they suddenly appear out of nowhere in your paragraph. It's sort of the same reaction or feeling you get when someone photobombs something, because you're reading along going, okay, this is good, this is good, this is good, and then boom, out of nowhere a quotation appears, or out of nowhere a fact gets dropped in. Okay, it's almost like someone photobombing a picture. So remember, the quotations research, they always need to be set up. Yes, they need to be set up in the sense of what I just mentioned in the last slide. Let me see if I can go back to that. I mean, yes, according to Smith, that is setting up the quote, but I mean even in the larger sense, in terms of even that line being naturally integrated into the paragraph as a whole. So we should naturally be leading into the line in which the quote appears, and we should be naturally be following out of that quote. And a good technique to use is something I call the sandwich technique, which means we set up the quotation, okay, that's like one piece of bread. We deliver the quotation, that's like the meat or the cheese or veggies if you're not a meat eater. And then we follow up the quotation with some sort of commentary. That's like the other piece of bread. The other thing to be careful for is to avoid long quotations that speak entirely for you. Because remember, occasional use of research helps support your points, not the other way around. Okay, the secret isn't to go out and find someone's long paragraph that words things better than you ever could, and you're so excited that you just say, you know what, that paragraph is awesome, I'm sticking that in my paper. No, 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 no. The goal here is to write things on your own and then use occasional research to back up what you say. So you probably shouldn't be using such long quotes. When writers do recreate an entire long, let's say a short paragraph or even a medium-ish paragraph in its entirety, it's usually because the writer wants to really closely examine that paragraph and either examine it or analyze it to do something very, very specific with that paragraph. Unfortunately, I see too many students not doing that. They just stick it in there because it replaces their own writing, and that's not the goal here. Also, it creates more formatting confusions. Oops, I had to move something out of the way. Because quotations over 40 words need to be placed in a special format called block formatting. It's not difficult, but again, if you're just not using those super long quotes, you won't have to worry about it. Okay, and here's an example of what I'm talking about. I've highlighted in blue. By the way, we're going back to my pizza example. I'm trying to connect this to last week's session where I used the topic of what makes an outstanding pizza. I'm not going to read all this out loud. You can see it begins: an outstanding pizza must include fresh, high-quality toppings, and on and on and on. The emphasis on fresh, high-quality toppings makes for better taste and an overall more complex flavor profile. It also improves the healthiness of the pizza, as pizza is too often viewed as junk food. As one article noted, pizza contains good stuff like carbs, calcium, and vitamins and minerals. What you add to your pizza can make a big difference in how you look and feel. If pizza does indeed contain good stuff, then using quality ingredients can make that good stuff even better. So as you can see here, I mean, yes, the quote has a signal phrase, kind of, as one article noted, but it also fits within the larger paragraph as a whole. The line before it is already talking about the healthiness of pizza and how it's too often viewed as junk food. And then I naturally bring in a quote that speaks to that very thing, that pizza can be healthy because it contains good stuff. And then I even play upon that exact wording with my follow-up. If pizza does indeed contain good stuff, then using quality ingredients can make that good stuff even better. Okay? So this is what we're ideally trying to do. I know it's sometimes, if it were that easy to just do this, we'd all do it and not have to take a writing class. But this is what we're going for. Use of research that's naturally integrated within the paragraph and that's also properly cited. Now let me switch gears a bit and show you the Full Sail database. Okay, I've already got the Full Sail Connect open. You should know how to get there. You can just Google Full Sail Connect, or if you click on the little Full Sail icon here at the top of your course page, it will take you there as well. So from the Connect homepage, we go to Organizations, we go to Library, we go to Research Databases. There are a lot of databases here, and some you should check out. Like if you're into gaming, there's one called Gama Sutra, which is actually a separate website, but it's listed as one of our databases, so that's allowed. Here's one on sports management. So there's a lot of stuff here. Most of you will probably spend your time at the very first one because it's the largest and most comprehensive. Academic Search Complete. And we log in. Now, I was running a little bit late coming to this session, so I forgot to practice what keywords I used to get that pizza article. By the way, the secret to using this EBSCO hosting is to use a variety of keywords. If you just literally start typing in things like, what makes a great hip-hop album, you're probably not going to get great results, because it's doubtful that there's going to be an article that uses that language precisely. So here's something about, first of all, we got 16,000 results. Everything from Cuban hip-hop to someone's new album, you know. The secret here is to use different criteria or different keywords to focus your thing. So for example, I wouldn't type in what makes a great pizza, because again, I'd get lousy results. But if I already know what I'm looking for example, I already knew that one of my criteria for an outstanding pizza is that an outstanding pizza must use high quality fresh ingredients. So maybe I want to search for something like pizza, toppings, and health. Right? So I'm already anticipating like what kind of results I would like to find. And you should kind of think along these lines too with your topics. Watch, this will crash and burn, and this won't be the right thing that triggers what I'm looking for. But already we got like 25 returns, not thousands. Frozen pizzas, Mamma Mia pizza. It might be this one. Maybe not. I'm having trouble finding the source I used. Oh no, it is this one. Look. Good nutrition means more than fat grams. Pizza contains good stuff like carbs. Okay, so I found my quote from this article. So that's kind of what you need to do. You need to be patient. You need to play around with search terms because you might not be using the right ones right off the bat. Again, anticipate sort of what you might be looking for in terms of what sort of precise topics you would like to get feedback on. So if you're looking into things like, I don't know, hip-hop music, you might want to look for focused searches on, you know, hip-hop. If you already know that lyrics is one of your criteria and you want to look for, you know, or thoughtful or political lyrics, you would look for something like hip-hop, politics, or hip-hop, lyrics, political. I mean, you would try to do a little bit of guesswork to anticipate the results you're looking for. Because if not, then it will just be a mess to sort of go through. Do I want to stay here, or what was my next thing on my PowerPoint? Apologize for going back and forth. Okay, this naturally leads into it. There's another aspect of APA style. So we've just talked about in-text citations. And we've just taken a glimpse at how to use the research databases to find articles. And if we find a quote or an article that we like, then we can properly cite it and integrate it into our paper. But there's that other aspect too, right? Which is the end of the paper references page, which I believe if you look into your activity, I have an example. Yeah, here's a references example. So if I open this up, and let me close that, and let me open this. Okay, so you have this Microsoft Word document as one of your downloadable assets. And I just picked 3 things in general, like it's all over the place. Here's one about music, here's one about video games. So I just randomly chose 3 articles from the databases. This is just more about how it needs to look. that we have a center title at the top, references, so it's not bolded, it's not underlined, it's not put in quotation marks, it's not put in all caps. And then we have our entries, and notice that it's sort of the opposite of paragraph rules. With paragraphs, we indent the first line, but the other sentences in the paragraphs are not indented. With the references page entry, it's the opposite. The first line is not indented, but other lines are, just because it makes it, this is called hanging indents, by the way. It just makes it easier to sort through. And the authors' names are listed alphabetically. The reason why I have this joke kind of sorry sign up here is because I can't cover everything that would need to be covered for the APA references page. Okay, there is so much information, whether you're citing from a book or a magazine or a newspaper or a website or a video. Okay, the rules just change. I mean, there are some general things that stay pretty much the same, but it varies so much that I can't teach you every single different format. But what I can do is show you the different places to look to find this information. One neat trick is that if you, let's go back to the Full Sail database. Okay, I'm going to do a different selection because this selection actually has no author. So let me just randomly pick something. How about video games? Here, I'll pick one of their topics, video games and children. I'll do a search. Okay, let's say that I like, I'll just choose anything. Okay, let's say I like this article here. Okay. By the way, you should have either an HTML version of the article or a PDF. So I'll just click on this. Let's say I love this article. Okay. And I already know how to handle in-text citations. I'm pretty clear on that, but I'm not sure what to do for the references page. You have this neat little function here on the right. And if you click on the, which one is it? This one. It will even come up with a little thing that says cite. This is a citation generator. And if you click on it, you'll see that it gives you the APA format. Now, the only problem is that the APA format, it tends to give you the correct information, but it tends to get the formatting all wrong. Sometimes it puts the author's name in all caps. That is incorrect. Sometimes it puts the title in all caps, like it's doing here. That's not correct. So you do have to fix the elements, but at least you have something to work with. And I'm going to go ahead and copy this over into my references example. So let me just create a new entry. And let me see if I can fix the formatting real quickly. Let's see, what font was I in? Everything should be in the same font, so I'm going to fix that too. Times New Roman. Right? Hey, what happened? Times New Roman. Okay, and now I'm going to fix all this. APA titles, not only are they not all capped, but they don't even capitalize keywords. Okay, they're handled just like sentences. So I would have to fix all of this. Protected speech. Because there's a colon here, the first word after that would be capitalized. Violent. Video. I should have picked something with a shorter title. Game legislation post-Brown. Game legislation post-Brown. I'm capitalizing Brown because I believe that's someone's name. You do basically follow the same rules that would apply to sentences. So the first letter of the sentence gets capitalized, and then nothing else gets capitalized unless a proper name appears. I'm going to shorten this stupid title because it's too long. But let's say that's the end of the title. Okay, so now I fix things. Now it's appearing how it should be. But there's one final detail we have to use, which is sometimes right after your AP reference, it will give what's called a DOI number. If there's a DOI number in there, great. Just, use that. Let me see if I can bring up my example again. Here's one that uses one, okay? Actually, let me clear up all those stupid squiggly lines that appear. Okay. So if you look at the first entry here, this one has the DOI number, so that's fine. But if it doesn't have a DOI number, you need to include the permalink, because I need to get back to your sources to make sure that they're okay and that they came from the database. And if you just go up here and copy the URL link, it's going to take me to an error page. What I need is the permalink. So you click on this little chain link thingy here, and it brings up the permalink, which you can copy over. And you just need to add the lines retrieved from, and I misspelled retrieved, retrieve from, okay, and boom, there's our entry. I know it's a lot to keep track of, right? I mean, you have to go to this site thing, you have to get your APA entry, you have to fix whatever's wrong with it, you have to go to the permalink and copy that in. But if you can follow these simple steps, even though there seem to be a lot of them, then you'll be fine. Then you'll create something that looks like this with no problem. Okay, so that's kind of what you need to do. You also have some resources. I want to show you those. Also downloadable for the week, the week 3 drafting your blog assignment is you have this APA Basics PowerPoint. It's about 50 slides long, but if you can take the time, it won't take you that long to go through it, maybe half an hour, but I encourage you to at least kind of skim through, because there are lots of things that might apply to your source that I haven't covered in this session. First, you get some explanations on what APA is and why it works and how it works. But if we get deeper into this, you'll see it covers the same information I just did, right? In-text citations, author's last name, year, page number. But it also handles things like, what do you do if there's no author? Well, you just use the first 3 words of the article and put it in quotation marks. What if there's no date? Well, you use the lowercase letters ND for no date. So lots of those kind of, those situations that might apply to your references get handled in this PowerPoint presentation. And this presentation also goes over the things that I just went over, right? About how we can paraphrase and so on. What we do in text if there's no date, right? We can just say, as Ian Smith, the author, no date stated. But if we get deeper into this and get to the references page, it goes over the same things that I just kind of went over in more detail. How the article should be punctuated, that it needs a URL, or if it's a general website, a URL is fine, by the way. But if it comes from the database, that's where the permalink is needed. Okay. Again, what to do if you don't have an author? You just begin with the article title. What if you do if there's no date? In parentheses, ND appears. So you have this asset, okay, and feel free to use it. Same thing with McGraw-Hill. Let's see. By the way, I am pleased to see that lots of people are mostly keeping up with the McGraw-Hill stuff. There's some who aren't. Again, there are weekly benchmarks you have to hit. Right, they're right here. There's a week 1 activity you have to do, a week 2, week 3, week 4, and then there's an overall grammar activity. It takes the entire month to do. So I hope people are keeping up with this. Like I said, during week 1, it's sort of the easiest 21% of your grade you could ever earn, but there are some people who've kind of been ignoring it. But you also have these weekly readings, which I haven't been keeping track of to see if you've been doing them or not. But if you go to week 3, for example, you'll see readings on using and documenting sources. And here it covers a lot of the same information I just did. Right? How do I acknowledge, integrate sources? And it covers much of the same information I just did. Right? It shows examples of how to integrate things within paragraphs. And notice that a lot of these readings are incredibly short, so it's not like you're given a ton of reading to do. They're usually just like a short paragraph or so. But the final entry here on how do I make entries in a reference using APA style. Again, it covers all the same things, right? So the stuff I was just talking about. Begin the list on a new page. Send the word references to the top. Do not italicize, even though McGraw-Hill italicizes it. I don't like that, but okay. But if you scroll down, look, it shows you how to handle anything. Printed books, most of you probably won't be dealing with that. But if you scroll down, it gets into other types, right? So sources on the internet, how to cite a general website or a web page, journals that are retrieved online with a DOI number. I just kind of discussed that. What to do when there is no DOI. So you have this same information in multiple places. I've went over it in a general sense in this go-to session. There's a PowerPoint thingy as one of your downloadable assets. There's a sample references page that I've put up there so you can kind of look and see how your references need to look, both in terms of formatting and in terms of basic information. And you have the McGraw-Hill site. So like all the stuff is out there. It's just a matter of you finding it, okay? And I know I've thrown a lot of stuff at you, but you can handle it. Okay, so let's turn our attention to what you're doing for this week, which really doesn't need as much explanation as some of the past assignments. You're going to create a draft of your post. It's just going to be in Microsoft Word form at this stage. You're not going to post it to your actual blog yet. And if you haven't noticed, we've basically been putting together your essay piece by piece. So you chose a topic. This week you had to write your introduction paragraph, and then you wrote an outline of sorts where you listed your criteria one piece at a time and defined it and explained its importance. So now you basically have the ingredients required to put your essay together. So if we think back to my pizza example, right, like here were my 3 criteria. An outstanding pizza must have high quality toppings, it must use a homemade long rising dough, and must be baked in a wood fired oven. Like those can just become my body paragraphs now. I already have an introduction. My 3 separate criteria can become my 3 separate body paragraphs. And then I just need some sort of closing paragraph, and boom, I've got my essay. And a more traditional outline would look just like that, right? I'd have my introduction, which we went over last week. If you remember my introduction, it started off with a story about my memories of going to Showbiz Pizza as a kid. So that would be my introduction. And then I get into criteria number 1, number 2, number 3, and then I'd have a conclusion. One thing I really want to stress, because it's in the assignment instructions, and I encourage always read the assignment instructions. Look at the rubric to see how you're being graded. Because again, I don't go over every minute detail in these sessions. So there's always important information in the assignment sheet that maybe I don't stress as much here. But one thing I do want to stress is that in addition to using research for this draft, you also have to fold in a concrete example. So that's what I kind of stress here. So criteria number 1, I would discuss, for example, how an outstanding pizza needs to use high quality fresh ingredients. And then I would give an example of what I mean. I'm not sure. I can't think of a pizza off the top of my head. I could actually, but you would never know about it because it's a local place in Columbia, Missouri that I really liked. But maybe I would use that pizza joint as my concrete example. So if you think that Kanye West's College Dropout is one of the greatest hip-hop albums ever, then that might be your concrete example that you're going to use throughout your essay. If you're writing about what makes a great action movie, maybe you have a great action movie in mind that already meets all of your criteria. That would be your example. And a good strategy to use for each of your body paragraphs is, yeah, sure, spend half the paragraph talking about, in general, your criterion and what it means, but then you'll back up what you're saying with an example. If we look at my pizza paragraph, mine's kind of long, so I would probably, you know me, I'm an English teacher, I'm comfortable with writing, so my essay would probably be a little bit longer. I would probably use a 2-paragraph technique. Here's my paragraph about the criterion in general, and then I'd probably create a second paragraph where I explain, and a perfect example of this is, and I would explain how that pizza meets this criterion. Okay? So don't forget that, because we're moving from general theory, what makes something great, to folding in concrete examples to back up what you're saying for each of your points. Oops. Okay, quiz time. And then we'll leave some room for questions, because I know I must have spoken fast because it's only 7:40 and I got through a ton of material. So hopefully people have questions. But okay, here are your quiz questions. There are 4 of them. Number 1, conducting research is like joining a What? I stressed it pretty strongly at the beginning of the session. I don't know if people could hear me gulping there. That was me slamming my coffee. Um, okay, so write this down or take a screenshot. I'm going to go ahead to question number 2. This isn't so much a question, it's just something I'm asking you to go do. Before Thursday at midnight, which is when the week 3 go-to quizzes due, I want you to go to the Full Sail Library database and find a quality source. Once you find that source, name the title, the author, and the publication, and summarize the article's main focus. Okay, so you don't have to write a giant paragraph, but write me a couple sentences that explain the gist of what the article is about. And yes, you should be finding an article that you think you'll hopefully use. If you don't use it, that's fine. But you shouldn't just be grabbing any article just to find an article. Okay, this is in part designed to get you moving on the research component. So yeah, quiz question number 2 is just go to the library, find a source, name the title, author, publication, and summarize it in a couple sentences. Okay, we ready for quiz question number 3? Dropping in a quotation out of nowhere is similar to what social media Instagram annoyance? Okay, I repeated it several times that when you're reading right along and a quotation or a fact or a piece of research just comes out of nowhere, out of the blue, it's similar to what? And finally, quiz question number 4, which is again less of a question, more of a command. Go back to that article that you found from the Full Sail database, the one that you summarized for question number 2, and give me that end of the paper reference for that article. Okay? I want you to show me that you can follow APA rules for creating a references page entry. And I already showed you a trick about how the Full Sail Library database can help you with that if you fix some things and if you add something to the end of it that's needed so I can get back to that source. But yeah, recreate it for me. I know that the FSO platform has some issues, like you may not be able to indent one of the lines, or I think everything else you can do though. You can italicize stuff, you can fix stuff, but maybe some formatting things won't be perfect. But it's more the information that I'm interested in. Okay, questions. I know I went over a lot, but any questions over the nature of research, about APA style, about what you're doing for this Sunday? Maybe I should bring that up real quickly. Uh, the assignment thing. I mean, here's the assignment sheet. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. It's worth 10% of your grade. It should be about 700 to 1,000 words. It needs to be in APA format. But if you get into the other pages, uh, it explains like what you need to do. For example, having a concrete example, and it gives the example here of, for instance, if your blog post is about what makes a great superhero movie, you might choose the Avengers as your example. Okay, and it's got all the other reminders too about how you need support from research, uh, some hints about drafting, etc. And then there's a rubric on the final page. Any questions? People can still hear me, no? I haven't been talking to myself, have I? Okay, good. I hope that just means that everything was crystal clear. I get nervous because that's a lot of information to get through in only 40 minutes, but Yeah, the big thing is research and APA style. I'm going to go ahead and stop this recording.